everyone, welcome to the Game Dev London podcast, a community of game developers and game enthusiasts talking about the one thing they love the most, games. My name is Nichola Humphreys. You can refer to me as she, her. I'll be your host for today, and with me today is a fellow GDL host, Amy. So, Amy,
Hi.
why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Amy. You know me from the other GDL podcasts. You can refer to me as she, her. And that's me.
Nice. So I like to start these episodes off with a little icebreaker question so our audience can get to know folks a little bit better, even know you some more. So my question to you is, if you had to be part of any video game universe, what would it be and why?
Well, I've had a think about this, and I think I'd like to do something fantasy medieval. So I'm torn between an Elder Scrolls title, maybe Elden Ring if I'm feeling intense, or maybe even Fire Emblem if I want. I don't know. Something fantasy medieval, I don't care.
To be fair, that's a good vibe. Just like the armor and the swords and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So with that, our topic of conversation today is all about body art and video games. So we can discuss today video game characters with body art, how they influence the body art scene in real life, and are there any issues that come with body art as well? So my question to you first is, you often post pictures of your tattoos on Twitter and other social platforms. So I'm curious, how many do you have in total?
I don't know how I'd count it because it's loads of little bits, but I've got this circuit one. This isn't video game related. This is just techie. But this one here, I don't know if you can see, Grimoire Face from Near. He's a floating magical book. I've got a Zelda one that I just recently got here from Ocarina of Time. That's cool. 3. Then a ton of Zelda stuff, which probably brings it to around 8, but I wouldn't really count the smaller ones as one tattoo. I don't know, it's just a jumble of stuff. So yeah, a few. What about you?
I feel like I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to stop counting as well. But in total, I've got 6, I believe. So I've got like a tiny little leaf on my arm, a little scarab, which was just like a flash piece, some flowers, and I've got Shenron as well on my leg in like a traditional sort of style, as well as like a dragon and a fish and a snake. No, they have no meaning. It's just a bunch of flowers and a bunch of
that's the same with my tattoos. They have absolutely no meaning. I think they just look cool, so I got them.
Like, tattoos are such a cool way to express yourself. So I'd be curious to know, why do you get tattoos or body art?
I think I just get it because it's fun. I mean, this one was my first one, this Master Sword here, and I got it as soon as I turned 18. Because I was like, I want tattoos. I got it and I was like, oh my god, I'm addicted. So I just got loads of different Zelda bits. I was like, this arm's going to be my 1-bit color arm where I'm just going to get black and another color, but it didn't really work out because I got a full color piece. So it's just sort of like, I like art, so I want art on my body, and I think it's cool. I mean, yeah, I just like having something there.
No, that's fair. Like, all my tattoos are basically done by the same artist, so I feel like it's cool walking around as like a human exhibition for her and be like, yeah, I'm just showcasing her art. If you want her Instagram, let me know. I've got it.
Yeah,
I don't have that tattooed on me or anything.
I've got a few different artists. The one which I have most is William Barber Brown, who done these 1-bit ones. And this was from a different artist, so I've got to figure out a way to make them blend together because they're both very different styles, so I might get something to sort of boosh it together, if that makes sense. No, and then this is just a black and white arm.
Yeah, all of my tattoos are currently black and white, but they all are currently just floating on my different limbs. So I'd
Yeah.
be interested to go back and be like, hey, can we like incorporate these somehow? Because like I've got a theme of animals, flowers, and Dragon Balls. So I'm planning on getting a few Dragon Balls later this month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting those and be like, well, how can I put this on my body without it looking like it's floating?
Yeah, it's like an art form in itself to put all these tattoos together. I find it really interesting when I see artists who do cover-ups and how they incorporate the other tattoo into the cover-up to sort of fit the pattern and make it look different. I love that. So yeah, tattoo artists are another level of art. It's insane.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what they have to do to prepare, and then like the style that they do, and then even if there are like customers that are like, oh, can we have it slightly like this instead, and they can adapt so quickly and be like, oh, don't worry, we've arranged this for this hour slot that you're in, or 7 hour slot, or something like that. So you mentioned that you've got a lot of tattoos inspired by Zelda and Nier.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans of getting tattoos from different video game franchises, or even expanding the franchises that you currently have?
I mean, yeah, with this Nier one, there's the Nier series is linked to the Dragon Guard series. They're all sort of the same series. So I was thinking of getting maybe some Dragon Guard stuff. I'm not sure what yet, because the problem I have is there's this pact mark in Dragon Guard and Dragon Guard 1, and it's basically a tattoo that gets put on the person to display their inability to do something. So, for example, the main character Kaim has this pact mark on his tongue because he sacrificed his voice to make a pact. So I want to get that, but because of the meaning behind it, it wouldn't make sense to get it anywhere. So I'm a bit torn between whether I want that or not. So I might get something else, but not sure yet. That's the plan.
That sounds really cool. Like I plan on just grabbing more sharks and more animals in the future.
Nice and simple. I love that.
Because I have like a theme going on. It's hard to like expand out of that. But I do have an idea of getting like an owl bear in the future, which is like a character from Dungeons and Dragons, which you can encounter, and it's got the body of a bear but the head of an owl. And I just love the idea of just having that on me. Be like, yeah, it's an owl bear. It's totally cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And it sort of fits with your other tattoos as well.
Exactly. I just thought I might, because I've already got like a mythical creature in there. I might as well have another one.
Would you ever get something like, because you've got dragon, would you ever get sort of a dragon from a video game or something like that?
Well, I'm not. I guess you can kind of say that Shenron is a dragon in a video game because he's featured in most of the Dragon Ball games, but I don't know. It would depend on if there's a particular animal that I like, which is also a video game protagonist. So I'm not too sure. Maybe like a Bandicoot at some point, but they look very different than what is portrayed as Crash and Coco. So I'm not too sure. Yeah, I think.
Well, that's where the tattoo artist could make it fit in with your other tattoos.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because the dragon tattoo that I have at the moment looks nothing like Shenron because it's more like a traditional style dragon, but it's like he's got the correct anatomy. That's the word. Correct anatomy. So he's got like the paws in the front, and he's got like the long whiskers, and he's even holding like a Dragon Ball in his paw. So it's like taking animals, or maybe like mythical animals, and twisting them with the traditional style of tattoos, which I quite like. So that's what my body art looks like. So I'm hoping to like expand that in the future with animals from video games and just random animals that I see.
That's nice.
So with that, you mentioned a few tattoo artists yourself that have done your art. So I'm curious as to if you've seen any like iconic video game tattoos out in the wild on Instagram or Twitter or just in person.
The man who done this tattoo, I stumbled across him on Instagram and I absolutely loved his artwork. It looked like something right out of a painting.
Oh, wow.
With all of his colors and stuff, and he done loads of Zelda pieces. He actually found me on Facebook. I posted on this tattoo group that I want to blend together all my Zelda tattoos, and then he just messaged me, showing me some of his work, and he's done some really cool stuff. He's done some Dark Souls stuff, some Zelda stuff. Anime is one of his other focuses. So I saw that and I was like, I need to book in a session with him. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care where he is. So I traveled, how long was it? About 5-6 hours up to Liverpool.
Oh, wow.
Got a hotel there and done 2 full day sessions with him to get this. And I'm so happy with it. And I guess with these, I saw this guy on Instagram as well, but he done a lot more traditional work, so he hasn't really done that many video game stuff. So I guess I went to him asking for some video game stuff, and I love them. They're such different style from this though, but I love both styles, so I'm happy I've got both.
Like your arms are just so cool, and it's interesting to see like two artists almost like intertwine with each other.
Yeah, thank you. I want to figure out a way to make them. I don't know. I'll figure something out, but blend them together somehow nicely.
No, that'd be really cool, and it'd be cool to see that progress being posted, because it's always nice to just like randomly open Twitter and be like, oh, there's just a tattoo update of someone. I love it.
Yeah, totally. I love seeing new tattoos on people. You mentioned your artist a lot. Tell us about your artist.
Yeah, so my artist is called Kerry Edwards. I found her because she was in a place she was in a tattoo shop that near to where I used to live. And then when I moved out of that, she also moved out of her tattoo shop to a place near my new place. And I was like, oh, that's great. So it was like, oh, I'm almost like moving with you. It was wonderful. Yeah, and I got my first tattoo with her also when I was 18, because I was like, I might as well. I'm in uni. It's like it's a crazy moment. Let's just do it. And then that took also 2 sessions, but I didn't realize where it was placed on my leg that I couldn't really move my leg, which meant I couldn't really walk for a few weeks.
Oh no.
But it was totally worth it. Like I'd easily do it again.
Was it like on the back of your leg where the bend is?
So it's almost like it starts at the ankle and then curves around to the back of my calf.
Oh wow. That sounds cool.
And it was really cool. And like I walked in there and she was like, "This is your first one, right?" And I was like, "Yep." And she was like, "Do you want to just maybe get a smaller?" And I was like, "Nope."
You're brave.
Yeah, and like all my tattoos have been smaller since then, so it's crazy when I walk into a shop and she's like, I see, is this big one or small one? I'm like, just small this time.
Which part was the most painful out of all of your tattoos? What part was the worst?
I would say that it would still be the dragon, just because it also went near the knee pit, which I think there's probably a more scientific term for that, but it just like it edged in the knee pit, and like there was
where
also
the bone is. Yeah,
and just like where there's no like nerve endings, but it's just like little fatty bits, and it was pretty painful. But it was also the fact that my dragon has so many scales and they're just shaded in full black, where it was going over and over again, it would often like hit a nerve, so I'd accidentally like twitch my leg, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
Ouch.
That
sounds painful.
It was pretty bad. Doesn't help. I was also hungover for that, but that was like a
oh no. Yeah, my artists always say don't come into the studio drunk or hungover. Just wait 24 hours before. No alcohol. Otherwise, you'll just bleed everywhere. So I've not tried that. Did you bleed loads?
Yeah. So the crazy part is that I drunk 2 days beforehand, so I was like, I'm probably fine, and I drank so much that it even went into like the second day, which was the day I was getting my tattoo, and then I genuinely thought she was coloring my leg in red, like coloring the dragon in red,
no.
and she was like, "No, that's just you." And I was like, "Oh no, oops." But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it because you do bleed a lot. But if you don't mind blood or don't mind being dehydrated for a few days, then I mean, I wouldn't encourage it, obviously, but it's yeah, wouldn't encourage it.
Wow.
But yeah,
That sounds fun.
yeah, that was probably my most painful one. And like, I have a little snake on my leg, with like a little bit of flowery stuff around it, and I didn't even realize that she was doing it because that's like on my thigh, like on the just above my knee. And I sat there, and like she was like, "Oh, all done," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that was really quick." So
Wow.
yeah, the smaller ones on like the arms and like the just beefy bits of like a body, I guess. I guess it's a good way of describing it, like thighs and like forearms and stuff. That's usually the best place to get tattoos, and don't feel them at all.
Yeah. The hand is pretty painful.
Yeah.
The knuckle area, this area, it's right on the bone, so that part's painful. But don't ever get a tattoo on your armpit area. This area here. It's freaking painful. The worst out of all of my tattoos, even my hand tattoo. This little area here near the armpit hurts so much.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because this was during the second day and it was near the end, and I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I've always heard that like it doesn't matter what area you get tattooed, just avoid the pits. So like the armpits, the elbow pits, and the knee pits, because those are the most painful. Which mine was only just like scraping my knee pit, but I always emphasize with people who have full pit coverage.
Full pit coverage.
Yeah, that's a new term. I'm gonna because like I've seen a content creator that I follow called Cinnamon Toast Ken, and he has like full coverage of his entire arm of like heroes on one side and villains on the other, which are a mixture of like anime and video game characters. So he's got like Ken fighting Sonic, fighting Zelda as well, and on the other side he's got like Monokuma from Danganronpa, which I'm always for. Such a great franchise. So yeah, those are some of the like most iconic video game like sleeves that I've seen from like large content creators. But yeah, I always love seeing just like video games and be like, oh, I know that
game. Yeah, I mean, I cannot for the life of me remember who this was. It's on YouTube. There was a content creator who had this tattoo, but on his hand, and I was like, that fits so well because he made it work with the knuckles, with all of these like little bits, and it looks so cool. And I want to find it again, but I can't find where it is. But I guess I can't get it anymore because my hand's covered. But it was so nice looking. And I can't remember any other content creators because I usually come across artists on Instagram who has done some cool stuff. So I can't think of anyone else really.
But like with us getting tattoos on like our hands and like legs and stuff, we are in a fortunate position being game developers where we're able to showcase our tattoos and actually walk around in studios and be on webcams with our tattoos showing, and there isn't any like need to hide them or like any reinforcement to be like, oh, you can't show these, compared to like some other industries such as like fashion or even like being air stewardesses, because that's only been a thing recently where I think it was on British Airways where they said, oh yeah, you're allowed to show your forearms, but that's it.
Oh right, yeah. I think we are very privileged to be in a place where we can have tattoos and show them off, but it also does sort of, if we look at Asian countries, they're not the same in the games industry. You don't really see that many people from Nintendo Japan with tattoos, just because in that part of the world it's not that accepted, but here it is, and I think things are getting better. because the things with making things accepted, we really need to push it far before it reels back a bit and it's seen as normal, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's really great that our industry does accept tattoos. I've worked with some people with really cool tattoos. For example, when I was at Jagex, there were people with like neck tattoos and stuff, and they look really cool. And it didn't affect their job one bit, because they can still do the same job. It's just art on their skin.
Exactly. Yeah, and with there being so many gaming tattoos and like gaming themed tattoos, you can almost see how people have been influenced by characters themselves in video games who have body art as well. Like some of the most iconic body art that you can see would be like Kratos from God of War. Like, fair enough, it is the ashes and the blood of his family, but it is still a tattoo and it's still pretty iconic. Like on a visual standpoint, emotionally it makes me want to cry. But yeah, you get iconic pieces like those, and then yeah, with Yakuza games as well, it's a way of them expressing themselves through their groups, and that's like how far they've come in their lives, and it's very, very interesting to see that.
Yeah, I think there's some nice tattoos in video games, but the fact that I struggle to think of that many shows that there isn't enough.
Yeah.
Really, because I'm trying to think of titles. There's some games with character creation, like Elder Scrolls games and Sims and stuff like that, but I can't think of many which have it normally, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah, I think we need more characters with tattoos in games. But
yeah.
What do you think?
No, I totally agree. I feel that, especially with games where you can customize your own personal character, I feel like there needs to be more options for tattoos and potentially body art, or even body modification, like piercings and stuff. Like, I feel like piercings you could see more in older games like The Sims, but you wouldn't see tattoos until like the newer Sims 4, where you can get like arm sleeves and leg sleeves and even like chest pieces as well. And it's good to see that expansion into body art and seeing it being more of an option that players can choose from. But yeah, I feel like there should always be more, because players always want to express themselves, and tattoos are a way that people express themselves IRL. So
yeah,
it'd be good to like have that transition into video games and be like, I want to portray myself in this character, but if there isn't like a neck piece or an arm piece, then it's hard to link the real world you to like the characterized version of you.
Yeah. I think that we're getting more and more as time goes on, and hopefully we'll keep getting more. But when you look back at older games, because I only ever really play older games, so I've not noticed that many tattoos on characters. So when we get into newer games, hopefully there'll be more. But maybe it could be an issue with a lot of characters from some of these story narrative games are under the age of 18, so they can't get tattoos and stuff like that. So there is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because with some characters in video games, like you start to see them as they're like very young and under the age of having a tattoo, but you can see them evolve with age, and like in older games, like in the series. So for example, with Ellie from The Last of Us, she gets a tattoo in the second one because she's old, like at the age in the apocalypse where she can get a tattoo, though I don't think the law really applies in an apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would apply in the apocalypse. If you've got nothing else to do, why not just get a tattoo?
No, exactly. And like with my flower piece, I had been mistaken for it being a Last of Us tattoo, which I'm not against, obviously, because The Last of Us is a wonderful game and a great franchise. It's just like, as soon as I got it, I was like, oh no. I'm not a hardcore Ellie fan, but still very cool. So I'll take the compliments.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can also see it with like in the new God of War Ragnarok game as well. You can see Atreus has like really small pieces, but you can see that evolution with him as a character, to be like, oh, he's gotten older, he's gotten his tattoos and like his ruins on him.
Yeah, and when we were talking earlier about different on the document about different tattoos, you mentioned the character from Far Cry 3, Jason, and how his tattoo, if I'm not mistaken, I've not played this game, his tattoo expands like a skill tree.
Yeah.
Does he level up and he gets more tattoos from the skill tree or something?
Yeah, so talking about that, it's interesting seeing like tattoos be part of like game mechanics, to be like, oh, one, it's normalized, and two, we're using it as a mechanic to show the players.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So it's as the player like increases their skills in certain areas, his arm piece grows, and you can almost you can access that via the just the player menu, and you can see his piece grow both on his arm when you upgrade a skill, as well as like in the menu. So it's really interesting to see that. And even in like other games that have been remastered, such as Shadow of the Colossus, the big monsters, the Colossi, which I'm hoping I get right, they have little like symbols on them, which I guess you can classify as body art or body tattoos, and they signify the weak spots which the players then have to hit.
Yeah. I don't know if I would count that as body art, because in a way they could be interactive world space UI elements, but I think that's a good point to bring up as well. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about that, but I think that's a cool point to bring up, though.
Yeah, like it's interesting seeing games like dip their toe into using tattoos as these like game mechanics, and like testing to see if the players enjoy them, or whether it's something that they want to see in the future. So it'd be interesting to see that be expanded upon, and
definitely,
whether it's like for a skill tree such as Jason Brody in Far Cry 3, or whether it's weak spots on an enemy but you can like visually see it across their skin. Like, it would be a UI/UX nightmare, but it would be really interesting for the player experience. So it'd be interesting to like see that be expanded upon.
Like I mentioned earlier, the pact marks in Dragon Guard, they sort of played into the game just like Far Cry's did, and it showed where the characters were weak. Like, we had one character who had a pact mark on his throat, and I can't remember what that was for. One of them had it on their belly, which means they couldn't reproduce because they sacrificed their womb. Really odd stuff, but it's really cool how they use these different markings, and they made the markings representative of the things they've lost. So yeah, they can be used in really cool ways, and this game was made all the way back in 2001, so let's hope we can see more of this as time goes on.
Oh, definitely. And it's good to see tattoos being used to express a character's background, or being used to showcase their narrative and how that character was built up. Like, I know it's a more simpler tattoo, but like with the Hitman franchise and Agent 47 having the barcode on the back of him, it's like, oh, okay, well,
yeah, I love that.
Like, it's like, oh, he's part of like a big like organization where they need to know where he is at all times, so he's got a scannable barcode at the back of his head. And
yeah, I think that's really clever.
Yeah, exactly. And like going back to God of War as well, like once you know his backstory of his tattoo, it's like, oh, that's a really dark story, but then you understand why he's so angry and like why he's so rageful as well. And it's like, oh, it makes so much sense.
But in a way, I think we could question that and be like, all of these tattoos have meanings, but I don't know many characters who have tattoos which don't mean anything, because a lot of people in the real world have, just like you and me, have tattoos that don't really mean anything. We're just getting them because they look nice. So maybe Ellie from The Last of Us has tattoos that don't really mean anything. I've not played the series, but is that the case? Do those tattoos mean anything in a game?
I don't believe they do, but I'll have to double check that because I've only watched a Let's Play of The Last of Us Part 2, but it wasn't mentioned too much, like the tattoo itself, but it was a way of showing that she's grown in age and that she's like cool enough to get tattooed now. But yeah, it'd be interesting to just see characters have tattoos because they want them and they have like no meaning behind them, just to be like, this character likes tattoos, so they have tattoos, rather than like, oh, this person's family has been crushed and therefore they have tattoos and these meanings.
Yeah, like there's a character in the original Watch Dogs game, I forgot her name. She was real like hardcore edgy character, and she had 2 sides of her hair shaved and all these piercings and tattoos, but she just got that to show that she was the edgy character. But then we've got loads of people out there who just have tattoos. They're not like edgy, or people who have piercings, they're not this edgy character or anything like that. They just like the look of them. So I think it would be nice to see more natural tattoos on people who just like them on characters.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, it would be nice to see that evolve as games evolve as well. But with tattoos as well, because when there's original characters, it's the game artists themselves carving that tattoo into that player character and making it work with their body and really thinking about the body art of that character. But when it's already predetermined tattoos on pre-existing characters, such as athletes in football or rugby, for example, it can then have issues behind it, because there have been instances where game developers have needed permission from tattoo artists to showcase their work. So it's like a double-edged sword, because it's like, oh, it'd be great to showcase these tattoos and showcase that the athletes are creative and let the game artists really express themselves by making these pieces, but then it can like get into unfortunate law stuff with like compensation, because they might not have the permission from the original tattoo artists.
Yeah, I mean, that is a problem in itself, because people have characters of there's 2 sides to this. There's the actual artist who done the tattoo, who wants compensation and stuff, wants permission before the game developer can put it in. But then there's also the other side of stuff. There's a lot of game tattoos out there. They can't really put a cease and desist on tattoos and chop off your arm. So
exactly,
it's difficult. But how I don't know how they would approach this. I think if I were to come across a problem like this and there's a person who has tattoos, I would just remake the tattoo in a way that doesn't look like the tattoo but still represents the same thing. So if someone has a flower tattoo, you tattoo a different flower but make it in the same place and stuff like that. But that sounds like a complicated problem, and it's not something that I've thought about yet because I'm not an artist in the games industry.
Yeah, but like thankfully we haven't, because of our positions, we haven't had to run into that issue, thankfully. But it's unfortunate when you're making these like really big games that people idolize these characters over, and then it's like, wait a minute, I know that I'm going to just say a random name and hopefully they're still in sports, but like Wayne Rooney, he has this particular tattoo and it's not in this brand new game that's come out. But so it can almost like break the immersion of playing as these characters, but you know that that's not the true form of themselves.
Yeah. It's a shame, but I guess these things have to be approached properly because we don't want to get sued or anything like that.
No.
And yeah, I think this sort of leads into another thing that I'm interested in, and it should be because tattoos in video games are usually just done by the artist who working on that game. Would it be a good idea to bring in a tattoo artist to work on a video game for the art for the characters? Maybe, I don't know, but that sounds like something that would work because an artist might not know how to best carve a tattoo onto a person in comparison to the tattoo artist who has experience in that area. I don't know, I'm just blabbering right now.
No, that makes total sense. Like it's always good to get the perspective of someone who works in that specific industry and knows how to apply a tattoo and knows what colors work for the body, and it'd be interesting to have like a meeting or like a discussion between video game artists, like video game character artists specifically, and tattoo artists, so they can like build this ultimate tattoo on this character together. Because I like, even going back to shouting out Kerry, who's my tattoo artist, what she does sometimes is she gets these mannequins and then draws the tattoos that she wants to do at some point on these mannequins and rotates the like records a rotation of this mannequin so they could be like, oh, it'd be good to do this one day. And like you can see how the tattoo will work before getting it applied on you. And I feel like that would almost be a way of tattoo artists showing like tattoos they want to do before even putting them on clients. But like, this is what it's going to look like on this body shape. And we could even use that with games to say like, oh, we can make this character model and they can walk around and you can see how the tattoo like works.
Yeah, like a tattoo simulator in a way.
That would be so cool.
Yes, I mean, I was trying to think about games which have tattoos as a focus, and I can't think of any. But I think a tool, I don't know whether I'd call it a game or a tool, or something that does exactly what you described. You can design your tattoos, put it on a body piece, and then have a spin around of that you could send to the tattoo artist, could send to their clients and stuff like that. Because a lot of the flash books that artists have are just flat art books with flat pieces. You wouldn't know what it would look like on your body until you get to the room and they put a stencil on. So I think something like that could be useful for someone down the line. Maybe it's already a thing and I've never heard of it because I'm not a tattoo artist, but that sounds like an interesting tool.
Yeah, like there are even programs out there, like AR programs that can project particular fashion items onto people who want to try on that item but can't actually go to a place or can't get that item sent to them. So it'd be interesting to then have that, but for tattoos. So you can even like AR project them onto your body specifically, because there may be character models that might not match your body perfectly, but then if the model itself is you, then it'd be interesting to say like, oh, I'd love the like Luigi and Waluigi on my arm, but I don't want to go and get it tattooed just yet, but I'd like to see how it goes. I don't know, I'm just throwing characters out there.
Yeah. I've seen some artists do this, but they just get a picture of the client's arm and they Photoshop it on the top, which works all right, but it doesn't really capture everything because it doesn't really capture how the arm sort of folds and you know what I mean, like rolls. So a tool like that would be good.
Exactly.
Or maybe on the other side of things, if we look away from simulators, a tattoo game, like Papa's Pizzeria, where you have to do all these tattoos and make all these clients happy. I think that'd be a fun game idea. Maybe someone's made one.
like a diner dash, but for tattoos.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to make sure it's sanitary before they come over, because it's like, oh no, I don't want like cross contamination.
I'm gonna make that for my next game jam game. Yeah, that sounds fun.
To be fair, that would be really cool, because I remember when I was younger, before I was able to get a tattoo, I really wanted the back piece from DMC Devil May Cry that Dante has, and it's almost like this like cross thing that's going on in the back of him, and I was like, that would be really cool to have. But then realizing that our body physiques are very different, because like we've different genders, and he's a lot more muscular than I am. Like I know that I lift weights occasionally, but I'm not on that level. So it probably looked very different to like the tattoo on me would probably look very different to the tattoo on him. So it'd be good to like then see that, but then also like gamify it as well, to be like, oh
yeah, I mean that's where your AR app that you suggested would help. You could just AR it on your back and see what it looks like. Yeah. I have nothing else to add.
No, that's fair. Like those tattoos are just so cool in general, and every time I see a tattoo with like a video game character, I'm always liking it on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. If I didn't have my particular aesthetic, I'd love to have that. Like going back to shouting at tattoo artists, there's a lady in America called Nichola Amy. I might be getting that name wrong, but she does these amazing like full color anime pieces, and often does like video game characters as well. And I was like, oh, if I wasn't into like black and white pieces, I'd love to get that one day.
I mean, you could still get it and somehow merge it into your other art, or just get it and then be like, yeah, you just got this piece here because it looks cool.
That is true, but then
it won't fit together, would it?
No, that's true, but it was also, the trip would probably cost more than the tattoo itself.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, maybe.
Either way, though, it'd be cool to get. And I love
an expensive tattoo.
It would be a very expensive tattoo, but it's always fun just like browsing through the new posts from artists and be like, wow, that color is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's also body art, which isn't tattoos like paints and stuff. You see a lot of characters who have like chest paint and stuff like that, and face paint, because I know in a lot of the games I play, like the Elder Scrolls titles and stuff, you can pick face paints to have, and they're really cool markings on the face and stuff like that. But I don't have anything to add on to that. That's all I know about body art in games. I can't think of anything else.
No, that's fair. Like, to be fair, there isn't much to talk about at the moment. It's just talking about what we currently have. So when tattoos and body art evolves in video games, and I'm sure that we can always record another episode and be like, oh my god, you know that AR app that we were talking about, and the Diner Dash with tattoos? It's a thing now. It's great.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, with that, I guess it concludes another episode of Game Dev London podcast. Oh, can't speak right now. I've been your host, Nichola, and you can find me online on most platforms at Humphreys Media. Big thank you to Amy as well for being my guest today. So, Amy, where can people find more about you online, on the web?
Yep. Like mentioned in other GDL podcasts, you can find me on Twitter at Amy Elliott, LLT, not one T, with an underscore at the end. And then Instagram is just amy.m.elliott. You know, like if you just search Amy Elliott, it should come up with something. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
You can also find both of us on the Game Dev London Discord as well. If you want to pop by, say hi. We're always interacting with that and like saying hi to fans and getting like discussing all stuff games. So yeah, come over.
Show us your video game tattoos.
Exactly. And even comment in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube or
yeah.
But yeah, fantastic, and thanks to everyone who's tuned in, and make sure to check out future episodes of the Game Dev London podcasts and check them out on Twitter for the latest updates. Otherwise, we shall see you this time next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.